Hi guys, welcome to another episode of It's Kritikal. I'm your host Kritika Singh, and in today's episode we have with us Barbara Whitsitt. Barbara is the creator of the website vegrules.com, an information source for vegan and plant curious individuals. Utilizing her research and IT analysis experience, Barbara furthered her education in plant-based and vegan nutrition. Barbara's passion for animals and social justice drives her work to provide solutions and multiple options for transitioning to a holistic vegan lifestyle. To know more about Barbara, let's hear from Barbara herself. Thank you so much for being on the show, Barbara, and it's a pleasure having you here.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here.
So, Barbara, before we start talking about, plant-based diet or the entire conversation around living a plant-based lifestyle or living a holistic lifestyle for that matter, I would like to know a little about what you do.
Okay, so I get paid to work in IT as usually a quality analyst.
Okay.
I work on a contract basis now. I've been doing it for over 20 years, and I've worked in the healthcare industries, the government industries, the media research industries. So I have a lot of experience with research and analysis. My passion became veganism 5-6 years ago. Before that, 10 years ago. So I started with becoming a vegetarian.
All right.
I think in 2011. Got more interested, took some plant-based nutrition and vegetarian nutrition classes, got some certifications in that. And that's what kicked off my activism to become vegan, because, I fell for the same marketing ploys that we all did, that we have to eat meat and dairy, and, that it was perfectly normal.
Yeah.
And when I found out that it wasn't, it was a lot. It's very overwhelming initially when you find out that, you've been lied to for all those years. First of all, it's not good for you and it's cruel. So the overwhelmness kicked into, anger and we've all been lied to,
Yeah.
right? It's not just, so I understand when people come from a defense
Point of view or place.
Yeah. But it's like, we're not the enemy. We're just trying to show you who the enemies are, which is big ag, of course, and, all the industries that perpetuate that.
Yeah, because I think, like you said, that we are not your enemies because we have been there. We were not vegan because it's how we lived our lifestyle and how our families brought us up. It's only when we started analyzing the reality behind these closed doors is when we understood that, okay, we need to be on this side and not on the other side.
Exactly. And it's something that I think we're unconsciously aware of, you know what I mean? Because for years, I was always curious and interested, but never took the full leap to educate myself.
True.
Probably because of the fear of what I would find.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Well, actually, I do know. I think after I lost my mom, I just needed more of, I needed more than just going to work, making a living, doing okay, and not making a difference, right? And then just kind of pulling your head out of the sand.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that means facing some ugly truths that we may not, and not everybody's ready to face those. I mean, today in this environment with COVID, with police brutality, with everything that we know has been there since I've been alive. So definitely since you've been alive. But it's always been undercurrent, something that you just we put our heads in the sand.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, that's just over there, or that's just a few bad apples. And we're seeing worldwide how this is affecting us. I mean, we're all affected by these behaviors and these practices that need to go away. And I know they're going to fight hard, because That's billions of dollars we're
Of
talking
course.
about.
It's not even
Um,
just one industry. It's so interlinked that it's everywhere.
exactly. I agree 100%. And I think that's where we can come in as consumers, though, if we become mindful and we know what we are supporting.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody loves Amazon and getting their whatever they order and getting it the next day,
Yeah.
or which is not necessary. Seriously, we just became this, consumerist nation and world that nothing, and we didn't look at the repercussions or the consequences of that. And now we're being forced to, right?
Yeah.
We may still not want to look at it and see it for what it is. But that's coming from a selfish place. We can't be selfish anymore.
So when we're talking about the entire consumerism part and aspect of it, Barbara, what does a holistic lifestyle mean?
Wow, that's a good question, because it was a conscientious effort, and I'm thinking like years back before I, recognized that this was a true need. And honestly, I started with PETA, to be honest with you. That's how I even started when I went vegetarian. I mean, a lot of people think that they're very, extreme, but they have to be, to get the message across. I personally think they're great and that they do really good work, because I know, we can't keep sugarcoating it.
True.
People just want to, I don't want to upset anybody, or, let's just, and it's like, aren't you sick of being lied to?
Yeah.
So I started with looking at, and I think I have them on my site, where the labels, the symbols
Yeah.
for what's cruelty free and or vegan, and even with that, those have to be vetted, because anybody can make up,
True.
Something and say this is cruelty free, and so there's certain ones that I trust, and ones that if it's not on that list,
Yeah.
then I don't buy it. Also, even before I was a vegetarian, just years ago, and I don't even know where this came from, but I was always more organic. I was always against like toxicity and chemicals, and just very cautious of what I was, putting in my body, or so becoming truly mindful of it, like it's in the forefront. That's how I started. I start with the labels, the symbols that vet these companies, and the important ones. I think there's like 3 that I have on my site. You constantly have to see that a company is not just marketing to you, but that it truly has the best interest of the climate and of their customers in mind. I understand that you're in business for profit, and that oftentimes is the bottom line, but that can't be the bottom line if it's going to hurt people and the environment. What's the point? It's insane. So there's a lot of green companies out there.
Yeah.
I have lists that I follow, and I have the labels that I vetted, that I trust, that I will use. And not all. Oftentimes, there's products that you'll find that don't have the labels yet, just because they're still going through the vetting process. So yeah. I also, like, as far as buying, I don't know, a cleaning product to clean your kitchen or something.
Yeah.
We can go back to the old-fashioned days and use vinegar and lemon juice and baking soda or powder or whatever.
Interestingly, I do that at home here. That's the kind of composition we make at home, and we use it.
And it's so much healthier.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about ingesting anything that you shouldn't be ingesting, or breathing in anything. I mean, whole foods go a long way.
Yeah.
People survived on them and we're not giving ourselves, with the things that we cannot control, which is outside air, air pollution, indoor pollution, the small things that we can control by not putting more of toxic chemicals and whatnot into our system and breathing it in, and it all adds up. It's a compound effect. Sure. Right. And I get frustrated oftentimes, just because sometimes it just seems so simple, but then I have to stop myself and go back and say, okay, in the beginning it wasn't, you know what I mean? When I found these truths, right? Yeah. So it's like, all right, just provide the information. I think that's huge. If you have to meet people where they're at, and give solutions, because oftentimes first of all, you're going to be defensive, because you don't want to be part of something that's so cruel and evil, and you know what I mean? It's just like, that's not me. What are you talking about? Right? Yeah. And then to change up everything that you know and that you think that you're doing right to begin with. It's hard. I get that. But once you throw out your ego and just like, all right, I know better, so I'm going to do better.
True.
How do I do that?
There's a constant conflict in the mind, when it comes to when someone else is talking to you about animal cruelty or switching to a plant-based diet. And that's when, that I feel that I think I'll have to research, but I think it's part of cognitive dissonance, wherein like you have conflicting thoughts in your mind. And at one side, it's wrong. But on the other side, since you've been living your life this way, you're trying to stop yourself from believing that what you've been told is not right, which is cruelty doesn't happen if we are drinking milk from dairy, because we see happy cows in the pictures and all of those things. So
that makes so much sense.
And we've been conditioned to follow that particular track. And for me, I personally feel we've been educated about being a consumer in our school. Like even for that matter, that food pyramid that we've seen in school, that you need to have this proportion of vegetables, this proportion of egg and meat and dairy. Those are all, I think, these are just fed to us as students, so that when we grow up, we do not question these things, and the companies can keep getting money from the methods that they've used since we were kids.
That's such a very good point. Basically we're brainwashed.
Yeah.
So we're trying to unbrainwash, and you said both of us came from that. So we understand how difficult it is.
True.
You see what you see. And I can't watch the horrific videos and everything. I just thank God for the frontline workers that they're out there undercover and filming this stuff so we can see it, because we're visual people.
Yeah.
People have to see things to believe it, right? And when you see it, you can't unsee it. We're going to implode if we keep commercial, meat and dairy going the way that it's going. And that's just a fact. I mean, it's insanity. People don't believe in science, and I don't know how they don't see it with what's happening around the world with,
even COVID for that matter, how they're not seeing that
COVID.
It's all because of the wet market, irrespective of the country, irrespective of where it came from. It's all coming because we have a habit of eating non-veg, and this can be changed. But unless and until we do something about it, we are going to see more
Right.
coronaviruses and pandemics like coronaviruses.
And before Corona, I mean, Ebola, all of the other pandemics that have hit before, not maybe quite as widespread as this has been, all originated with animals, with eating animals. It all comes from those unsanitary, inhumane conditions.
True.
I guess if people don't see it, if they're not affected by it, if they don't know somebody who got one of these diseases and either died or got really seriously almost died.
Yeah.
And that again comes back to, this view without thinking that we're all connected, and everything and every action that you do is connected and is putting out either or destruction. And at this point, it's pretty obvious. And people say conspiracy theories and all that kind of stuff. And some people, it's hard to, some people, they don't want, some people are just, what's the word? Agitators, right? Just like at peaceful protests, you're going to have people that are coming. They don't really care about the cause. They're just there to agitate. So you're going to have that same thing with talking about why it's a good thing to go vegan. I mean, and if you want to come from a completely selfish perspective, which is a good thing, but your health, people think that as you age, it's inevitable that you're going to get whatever conditions your family may have, like runs in the family, like diabetes or heart disease or whatever, high blood pressure. I don't know. All of the plethora of chronic disease and illness that people have, and that runs in families. And when they stop to think that, we've been eating the same diet for generation after generation, there's your connection. Not to say that there's not some genetic predispositions in some people and some in their family. That's possible, but you can lower your risk even with that if you choose to. It's true. You are what you eat. I've seen it. I've seen it firsthand in my own family, and thousands of stories that I've read from medical doctors and their patients of how they have literally reversed heart disease. What surgery or what medicine can say that it reversed your disease?
True.
It may have put a Band-Aid on it or managed it, and people still die from it or are still sick from it, but you have nothing that literally reverses it. That alone is amazing. And that alone is enough for you to say, hey, maybe I should take a look at this. With that being said, like, I know my brother and my husband both, like, my brother was on, I think it was either cholesterol. I think it was for cholesterol. And he went to a plant-based diet, like 95%, 90%, and took them off. I mean, and it wasn't even like, I don't even know if it was 4 weeks. That's how quickly removing meat and dairy from your diet can help your health and your illness.
Sure.
Why wouldn't you do that? Why do you want to feel, and the medicine that they give you has all these side effects. So in addition to what you're trying to manage, you're gaining all these other awful things.
Which most of the time, which we don't even realize, that one disease can actually, the medicines of one disease can actually have reaction, and you can have any other ailments in your body or any other chronic disease for that matter. Because I've seen it, like you said, firsthand. I've seen it firsthand in my family. My father recently tried, he took a challenge and he's like, okay, I'll try going vegan for a week and I'll see. That week turned into a month and now he's happy. He's like, it's been a month and I have not been more energetic like this, and I'm happy, I'm healthy, I feel better, and that's a good progress. And I hope he keeps continuing that and slowly transitions to a plant-based diet.
Exactly. So there's your, if you don't care about the animals, care about yourself.
Exactly.
and care about the planet.
Yeah.
Let's be real. So there's no downside to, and I love what you just said about your dad trying it for a week.
Yeah.
And then and that's usually what happens.
Yeah.
And that's how I did it. It's like I took the PETA pledge. I think it was for a month.
Yeah.
But a week, and there's plenty of programs out there. It's just like, okay, because some people can't even do that. So it's like one meal a day.
Yeah.
Start with with that, and see how you feel. Start with 1 day a week.
Yeah. The idea is to take that first step where if you're not doing it for the animals, please do it for the environment or for your own health. Because the day you take that step, even if it's one step at a time or a small change in just one of your meals in a day, it's going to go a long way eventually, because you will start seeing the changes in your body. Because when I transitioned and I became vegan, I mean, like it shows in the movie, like, someone is standing and there's a wind blowing, there's breeze, and, you're just feeling empowered or energetic. It happened to me. That's exactly how I felt after just a week of being vegan.
I absolutely love that. Yeah, it does. It does, like, kind of lift, like a heavy weight off of you, right?
True.
You feel lighter.
True.
You do. I mean, because you know how people feel, and I see them, they eat and then they're taking the antacids, or they're just like, oh, I feel so, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That doesn't happen when you eat vegan. And you can eat delicious vegan food.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing for people. You're not giving anything up. All you're giving up is bad.
And the only thing good that comes is for the businesses who are promoting it. So
we're on the same page there.
So I think, talking about veganism, talking about plant-based diet, I think the first question that comes into people's mind, because this has been fed to us again by marketing. It's a marketing gimmick, I would say, which is, where will we get our protein from? If we transition, what will happen to our protein? I need a protein-rich diet. Protein. Like, that's the keyword. Do you really think that we don't get protein from plant-based diet? I mean, I have all my proteins, like I get all my proteins from a plant-based diet for the past 6 years. But what's your take on it, Barbara?
So that's like one of the oldest questions and first questions that people throw out at you, right? Oh my God, I need my protein. And that is another, that's just another way to show how we've been brainwashed that we need these massive amounts of protein, which actually show that too much protein actually can cause some of the disease that people have. Because we're small beings, right? We don't need, we don't need to eat the protein that wild that like a elephant or a gorilla needs, And with that being said, there's protein in every vegetable that we eat. And if we eat a well-rounded plant-based diet, you get more than enough. You will fulfill your need of protein intake. If you're an athlete or an athlete, a bodybuilder, somebody who expends more energy, there are vegan protein powders that are, to meet that need. Other than that, the average person, we don't need tons of protein, and it's very much provided in beans and mushrooms and seeds and basically anything that you eat from the ground, whole foods, potatoes, rice, they all have protein. You have more than enough. The issue is, and it's not just an issue with vegans, is B12 and vitamin D. In my website, it's called bedrules.com. In my FAQ section, there's lots of links that you can find out about your protein needs and any of your other nutrients, as far as which I was leading into vitamin D and B12, because everyone thinks that, I need my protein, and we're getting enough protein. We know that. B12 and D, even if you're not vegan, most people are deficient in it. And that's because we're inside all day on our computers, vitamin D, the best place to get that is from the sun. And to absorb that, we're like cave dwellers. We're not out in the sun enough.
And especially during COVID, I think we are going to have to seriously check ourselves up, because we'll be vitamin D deficient rather than protein or anything else at this moment.
Absolutely. So with that, and there's vitamin D supplements, but you have to make sure, I think it's D3. That's again on bedrules.com. All that information's out there. So you get vegan D3 supplements. So those are the only supplements that I do take is D and B12. Now B12, people think that they get from animals. They're not getting it innately from the animals. The animals eat it, grass, right? So again, and people who are not vegan are deficient in B12. So
but
do the math.
I have always been seeing this, even, like all the vegan websites I know, or even plant-based website or non-vegan websites, normal news channels, whenever they talk about B12, the headline always says why vegans are deficient in B12, how vegans can consume B12, take B12 supplements, why vegans need to take B12 supplements, why vegans are deficient. So the point is, like you said, it's not just vegans, but somehow it's just marketed in a way that every time a non-vegan friend of mine asks me about B12, they're like, you know what, I'll be B12 deficient if I don't eat meat and if I transition to plant-based diet. So, but that's wrong. How do you think we talk about that more? Because
they can go get tested, right, and see for themselves to begin with, and just like the outreach we're doing here and on my site, people have to educate themselves. And I guess we have to get back to being critical thinkers. You can't just believe everything that you're told. You have to look at the source, right? Why are they, are you being sold to? Or are you being educated? There's a distinct difference, and people have to learn that. It's the consumerism age for the last few decades that has us becoming, we don't want to think for ourselves. We just want to believe what someone tells us. And unfortunately, many of the people that are telling us things, it's not for our best interest, it's for theirs.
True.
As far as the B12 goes, it's just like protein, I mean, it's similar to that marketing ploy. You need your protein, you got to eat meat. You need your B12, you got to eat meat. That's the only way you can get it. That's not true. And if you're getting it, the the minimal amount that you might be getting from eating meat, you're still most likely deficient in it.
Yeah.
So everyone needs to supplement with that.
And Barbara, like you were saying, it just like I just had this thought because you know how even as consumers we say that consumers are getting very smart. You cannot fool consumers anymore. They always can. They have internet in their hand. They can always compare your product with someone else's product. But that's the key. That's the catch. Like we just compare one product with the other product. The damage that is happening is the same. We need to look beyond just comparing these two brands because it's not just about the brands. The unethical issues or the sustainable angle, everything is the same. The only angle that you actually need to compare is whether it's on a larger scale where you see the elements and the components that's coming together to make that brand, and not just the price parity that we talk about or the taste or quality we talk about, because we need to go above and beyond just the superficial angle of comparison that we do as consumers.
I like that. That's very well said. I 100% agree. And that's becoming a mindful consumer, right?
Yeah.
No, I like that. You have to take a deep dive and doing so, becoming a mindful consumer.
Yeah.
And there's lots of things to help you to do that, as far as checking out the ethics of the company. And like you said, look beyond the brand.
Yeah.
I joined a group called Grab Your Wallet in 2016 when it's ran by a woman called Shannon Coulter, who's just awesome. And she called out the brands brands and companies who are not ethical.
Yeah.
And in many different ways. And there's a whole list that you can go and look at and see if they're on the list or off the list. And it's not like you just it's kind of like a boycott thing that you can do.
Yeah.
But she reaches out to the companies, and we do as a grassroots organization,
Yeah.
and ask them to, not sell this or change something. I did it again, sorry. Or change something that that's not ethical, that's unethical in their company policy. And some companies respond and some don't. And the ones that don't are on this list, don't shop here. Don't support this. If this is what you believe, don't support this. So there's, and with that being said, and then PETA has the vegan and cruelty-free list,
Yeah.
and Ethical Elephant, that's another company. And these are on my website, vegrules.com,
Yeah.
where you can, so that helps you, because initially if you're like, okay, let me try this because I don't want to support this stuff anymore. And you're like, where do I go? How do I start? There's lists out there to help you start.
You just need to Google it. Like you just need to.
Well, you Google what song was that or what movie, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Take some time and Google some things that might, make a difference in the world.
Yeah, my friends at Google will be really happy because I'm just promoting Google at the moment, but I think they should pay me after this episode is released that, thank you.
I was going to say, you get a little kicker.
Yeah, so there's another thing now, since we've been talking about transitioning, and even though you've said and we've spoken about it, but as someone who has certifications in nutrition, who's taken proper professional certifications, and how important do you think, from a professional point of view, you see it is to take up plant-based diet?
Extremely important. I think it's probably something you should make priority one. I honestly do. It's essential because, as you said, COVID-19 didn't come from the stars. Okay. We know exactly where it came from.
Yeah.
This is not going to stop.
Yeah.
And look at the devastation that it's caused.
True.
And how many months? This is like half a year. If you want that to change, because a lot of people think it's just like this fluke thing and we're going to go back to the way it was.
Yeah.
They think, I'll go back to my life the way it was. That's not true. that, get used to wearing a mask. I mean, get used to suiting up if you don't want to change things,
Absolutely.
Get used to staying inside, get used to, wiping down your groceries and not being able to see people. I mean, is that really how you want to live? And when we can just do the simplest thing, right? I don't know. I don't really think there's a question in my mind that we have to go plant-based on this planet. To save this planet, to save humanity, we have to go plant-based. It's that simple. Buying and shopping and eating our produce locally and seasonally.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, and that right there will cut down on plastic. Right. I mean, there's just so many things that if we just take a step back and it's not like you go without. That's my whole thing. People just are so used to what we're used to.
Barbara, there's just sorry, this has to, like, I need to share this. This is something that drives me insane. And
Okay.
at the same time, so there's so much, right? Like when we go to just for shopping, like anything from your usual groceries or like in general, if you go out, everything you pick up is packaged in plastic. Everything you do, no matter, like, when you're at the retail store, they ask, okay, we'll charge you 10 rupees or $10 for, or how then, like, when people say that, no, I want to educate myself, but I don't want to make those effort. So how to make it easier for, like, I'm asking you this question. I know it's a big question and it's a larger question to ask, but as an individual, how do you think we, as anyone, vegan, non-vegan, can improve and make change happen?
Yeah, that's a huge question. But I understand it too. And I understand people have so many, they can have a lot of other things going on in their lives where this is like at the bottom of their list, right?
Yeah.
I get that. But I think what we touched on before, where we were saying, small steps, start with one meal a day. As far as purchasing, like I've been trying to cut back on plastic because it was one thing when I was able to recycle it because I was like, okay. But now that's up in chaos right now with recycling not really doing what it's supposed to be doing. So I started trying to buy, and I don't even know why I didn't think of this before. It's just because of, I guess the culture that we're in, everything quick and immediate. But so I'll try to buy fresh produce and then freeze it myself, instead of buying it already packaged in bags. Or the little things that we can do, like I said, freeze yourself, buy and freeze.
Yeah.
Try to find products that are in cans, or because cans are still recyclable, right?
Yeah.
Glass is still recyclable. If you have to get frozen produce, then try finding it in paper bags or paper boxes. There's a lot of issues that are collective under this whole movement.
How do you think a plant-based diet is healthier than meat? Because meat is something that people see as powerful, giving you strength, again, protein. But do you really think meat is as good as a plant-based diet? Why or why not?
We know that we don't need meat to get our protein. What meat gives you more than and maybe that's not true. Maybe it gives you a lot of protein, but it's giving you animal protein, which is animal fat, which is like the number one contributor. It will maybe not, I don't know if smoking maybe beats it, but you might as well put it on the same level. But it clogs your arteries, period. And your colon. Meat clogs your colon. There's no health benefits to eating meat. There's just none. So aside from the protein that you may be getting from meat, you're also getting the other negative things that come with it, like I mentioned.
Yeah.
And then you replace that with plant-based, you're not getting any of the fat you're not getting the things that are clogging your arteries or making your endothelial Did I say that right? Your lining, to your artery. It's not inflaming that. It's healing that. So, Hippocrates, did he say it? Food is thy medicine. It truly is. When you're putting in, plant-based nutrients, you're getting minerals, you're getting vitamins, you're getting everything that you need, the essential minerals and vitamins that you need. And for centuries, fruits and vegetables, seeds, have been used for medicinal purposes. I mean, especially right, from India.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Ayurveda, the whole concept is about using herbs and plants for that matter.
Exactly. So another thing and a contention between the vegan community, because just like any other community, there's, people don't agree.
Yeah.
But vegan processed foods, like if you're going to go out and eat Oreos and, which happen to be vegan, or potato chips, and you can still be an unhealthy vegan, is what I'm saying. Like, I'm not saying you can't treat yourself, because I certainly do. Yeah. But if you're eating plant-based, like 80%, 90% of the time, and sometimes you eat vegan junk food, you're still way ahead of the game.
There's no objective, there's no gain for us while we are talking about veganism. There is no personal gain that we are getting out of it. We are talking about it because we are thinking and feeling for the animals. But at the same time, there are other benefits that we found out, whether it's from environment or the health perspective. So it's not something, the idea is to stop thinking from a point that, we are trying to force something on someone. No, it's just an information that we are giving because we found it for ourselves and it worked. It was amazing. So it's just something that we are passing to you. It's up to you. It's completely up to you to whether you want to transition or how you want to live or conduct your life. But we have seen it firsthand and we've seen it in our own life.
And you're absolutely right. Try a different way, I mean, for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But here are some options, and here are some solutions, and here are some answers, So if you can, it's hard to get unbrainwashed. It really is, because but it's not. It's the vegan voice is being heard more and more now. The doctors that I follow, I'm sure that some of you, that have been fighting this and that against animal cruelty and testing and and big ag, and even where I got my first certification in plant-based nutrition from T. Colin Campbell's E. Cornell course online. He's a scientist. I mean, if you want to start from where this kind of started in grassroots, I don't know, 30, 50 years ago. I need to pull my book back out. I haven't read it in a while, but the China study, he's a scientist, and they weren't trying to prove that meat and dairy were not good for you. They were actually trying to do the opposite. And then they're scientists. So scientists are going to report the facts. Yeah. And the facts came out, and he grew up on a dairy farm. A lot of these ex-vegan doctors were born and bred and raised on dairy. True. So for them to be coming out and, and doctors that were literally seeing, heart doctors, that's their money, right? Yeah. You're going to operate on your heart or, and then they're saying Dr. Esselstyn, who's a heart doctor and has so many cases where he puts his patients on plant-based diets and they don't need the surgery if they follow the diet.
Wow.
I mean, what do they have to gain from this? They're losing money when they don't have to operate, right? Exactly. The voice is being heard, I think, more and more now. I think, we're not being hidden anymore.
Yeah.
By lies can't stay, on top forever. Eventually the truth is going to come out, and that's what's happening. See, because a lot of people are very adverse against the vegan processed foods, but I think they can be a bridge to going plant-based. So, it's very hard for people. I mean, I know for me, my hardest things to give up, and I was a pretty healthy eater anyway, but I mean, considering the standard American diet, but I ate a lot of chicken, and like cheese wasn't that hard for me, but chicken and eggs were really hard for me. I'm sorry, chickens, but I mean, I went from vegetarian to vegan to plant-based, so it wasn't all just I woke up one day and was plant-based,
Yeah. Just before your episode, I had Ken Boats from Hungry Planet, and we spoke about this because Hungry Planet is into plant-based meat or mock meat for that matter. And we spoke about how, if you want to try meat alternatives, meat alternative is essentially not mostly made for vegans, but it's mostly made for people who are non-vegetarians or are transitioning. So that helps you in at least transitioning to the process and be okay with trying new things which are not meat, yet better than meat, but taste like meat.
Right. And I know I read where they're growing real meat from animal cells in labs.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, for me, if you're not going to hurt an animal and you can't give up meat, then that's not here yet. That's not really a market available.
Yeah.
But that's going to be another option for people who can't absolutely give up meat, which, if you try some of those mock meats, you'd be pretty surprised.
Yeah, that's true. Before we move into the last few questions, I think there's a quick rapid fire round that I'd like to have with you. And
Okay.
It'll just be quick questions, one word, and you'll have to answer in one word. In case you can't think of one word, then you can probably use a phrase to just, talk about it.
Okay, that's good.
All right. So your first rapid fire word is frog.
Frog. Oh boy. Ribbit. I don't know.
Money.
It's very hard to answer these in one word. I got to be honest with you. Money.
You can use a phrase, but not so much time.
Thank you. Thank you. Not as important as life.
That's a great one. Need.
Need. Oh boy. Define your needs versus your wants.
Okay. Want.
I guess it's the same thing. Define your wants versus your needs.
Interesting. Then I think sustainability.
Vegan.
Desire.
Hope.
Dog.
Best friend.
Vegan.
Conscious.
All right. So I think that was about it. I mean, I really enjoyed your answers because those, from a psychological point of view, can in itself be an article in itself.
I appreciate that because I was like a little thrown off. I'm like, yeah, I'm a thinker. So for me to just come up with one word answers, as you can see, was pretty difficult. But yeah, that was fun. It was fun.
Yeah, and I think
Thank you.
it'll be great for the audience to even know once I think the results are out. It'll be interesting to know about your results and how it compared in terms of how we define want and need, because that's something that will be a part of my research, which hopefully I'm thinking in my head comes out to be better than. Having said that, I think let's move to the next question, which is as an educator, Barbara, like, you've been working on helping people and especially the lower income group people and helping their families to get plant-based food. So what has the response been like, and where is the work situated at?
So this is just really kicking off what you were saying, how are people reacting to, being vegan and whatnot. A lot of people do come and say, it's not affordable.
Yeah.
And how do you get it to people in lower income communities? And So thinking, and I went back to when I was doing volunteer work, delivering for a food pantry over in my community to households, and also the Maryland Food Bank when we would donate and casseroles for homeless people. And I mean, these organizations do great work and they just get people fed. Again, sometimes the priority is just getting people fed. I think we can take it a step further and try to get them some healthy food, because, you know, the mayonnaise and the just, it was not healthy, and we're, you know, bringing to them. And then that totally feeds into the, you know, part of the health issues. We have lots of health problems over in this country because of the disparity among the people in lower income communities. But if we can find a way to get them, you know, plant-based food, and I think that goes back to what we were talking about earlier, if we can come up with solutions and make things that taste good, like in the for the homeless shelter, making up the casseroles, and we can like trade out, like using maybe beans and things that we can freeze and know will still be edible and whatnot.
Yeah.
Within a 6-month period. So I'm just started reaching out to plant-based chefs and whatnot to, you know, see how we can put something like that together. And then again, it comes down, you know, immediately the first reaction is always cost. Like, and that's kind of a mindset as well, because, and that's what I'm trying to do outreach on, the food that is still affordable, that you can purchase instead of the processed food, and that you can make yourself and make it taste good. So that's outreach, and that's education. So I have to put together, and again, I got to work with some plant-based chefs, because, you know, I like to cook, but, and I can come up with some really good things, but, you know.
You know, you said that you talked about how you've helped, volunteered for homeless, you know, shelters. And over there, where did the idea come from, like, you know, for you to get into providing plant-based food to them?
They do have, well, because I was making up the casseroles. I mean, one time my sister and I went, and you basically, you know, this station, and you switch stations, and every station makes a certain casserole with the, you know, the ingredients are all there and the recipes are all there. And they were filled with just, they were filled with mayonnaise, and tons of mayonnaise, tons of cheese, you know, just high sodium, high fat foods. And, you know, we could, on a small level, I got approval to make our own casseroles, and it was like, is this okay? You know, like say pasta with red sauce, right? But that's not the majority of the food that's being fed, right? So that's where I need help with coming up with a variety of dishes that can be frozen, because they have to, you know, they freeze it for a certain amount of time. So when you heat it up, and it has to be like partially cooked, and then when they heat it up, that still is, it tastes good, right? Yeah. So I need help with coming up with those types of.
So Barbara, my next question for you would be, like, you know, we've talked about plant-based diet, and again, with Ken also, I spoke about this because, you know, US and India are two different economies, and even though, like, you know, there are plant-based alternatives for meat available at a large scale in US everywhere. It's not the case in India at this moment, at least. Yes, in metro cities you can, but in tier 2, tier 3 cities, you still cannot. So how do you think we can take plant-based diet or the message to, like, you know, tier 2, tier 3 cities or rural communities or any place either in a developed country or a developing country where the awareness is lacking?
I think it's going to take a lot of work and outreach. And hopefully some of the vegan or plant-based companies, we can get some help from them as far as providing food for rural communities. And then I'm thinking, I'm not sure, like a lot of people would not have refrigeration and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
Just, yeah. So maybe we can, brainstorm on, because I know like Whole Foods I'm thinking of that we could get out to
Yeah.
those communities would be like, again, the canned foods, things that, pantry foods,
Yeah.
pantry based, and we can make, put together like really delicious recipes with spices and whatnot that replace what they might usually eat.
Yeah.
That's something that I think it's going to take some mindsets, a couple of mindsets to put together. But I think it starts with outreach, volunteers, people, maybe some community demonstrations and whatnot, and then samples, like sampling and whatnot. People, again, just as visual as we are, we're also, people have to taste things and see how things are, how you can do something differently.
True.
Right?
True.
And if we can provide them with solutions, but immediately I'm thinking like food truck, right?
Yeah.
But on at a different scale. So that could be one way. But yeah, I like that idea a lot.
Well, Barbara, I think we've covered a lot from, plant-based diet to protein to vitamin B12 or to even, why transitioning is important, sustainability, plastic, the use of, the list goes on, but
Yeah, it was a pretty in-depth conversation for sure.
holistic lifestyle, consumerism, and then cognitive dissonance, or for that matter, keeping ourselves on a pedestal or not, or being vegan, not vegan, that whole conversation that we have. But again, what's like after the whole conversation, I think there's a lot for me to even like when I write the article, there's a lot that I'll have to put into it, but it will be great. What's the big project next?
Wow. So before all the COVID and the police brutality came into play over the last few months, it was all just, focused on getting the word out, doing outreach, doing demos, and for, the community, the local community that I'm in. And that's still going to be part of my plan. But now I have these other, I'm fighting for humanity. That's right up there with, animal cruelty. So I'm learning to split my time between all of it. And I think I think it's maybe the universe kind of, showing me what direction I need to take too. Like, we need this now. So for me, it's going to be the demos and the outreach for healthier foods in the lower income communities, and how I can better serve them. Getting my site up to date with more information. So, and with that being said, maybe I can, some of the information I could get people that are interested in helping the same communities, the lower income communities, with plant-based food and like food trucks and whatnot. I mean, it's with COVID, we don't know where that's going, so as far as the in-person kind of thing, that's hopefully that'll be available to us again, because that's so important, and especially with what we're trying to do. It just is. You need to taste, and you can't do that through the internet. And a lot of people don't have internet. So I'm going to be focusing and working on how I can get information to the people that need it the most right now.
Interestingly, Barbara, first of all the best for, everything that you're planning for yourself. And I think it's really great, the work that you're doing and, the passion that you have for it, because I think everything needs to be a passion project. Otherwise, it doesn't really last that long. And with you, I think my conversation has been deeply enriching, and I'm really happy that you were a part, or you are a part of this podcast. And
I did too. Thank you so much for thinking of me, and all the best in your endeavors. You're doing great work.
thank you. And as a last message, if there's something you want to say to our non-vegan users, non-vegan audience listening to our podcast or seeing our video, what would that be?
I think just try it. Give it a try. One meal a day, one meal a week. Just start somewhere and see where you can go from there. You have nothing to lose.
True.
Absolutely nothing to lose. Only gains.
In case you would want to connect with Barbara, her LinkedIn profile link is mentioned in the description below. For anyone and everyone who wants to know about plant-based nutrition and vegan lifestyle, you can visit www.vegrules.com. It's www.vegrules.com. To follow It's Kritikal, you can visit our Instagram profile, which is @ITSKritikal_podcast. It's Kritikal Podcast, or you can follow us on Twitter on our handle @ITSKritikal_pod @itskriticalpod, or you can visit our website www.itskritical.com to know more about all our latest episodes, articles and videos. You can also follow us on Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast to listen to us, and happy listening.